Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of the Small Business Podcast. I am Cecilia Vickman. I'm your host for this show, and I hope that you are at least staying warm. When we are recording this, it's still mid January and it's quite windy outside. So I hope we don't lose power during this interview because I have somebody with me that's super interesting. And as you may know, I'm not just the small business owner owning a podcast, I'm also a real estate agent. And when I got an email from Steven, I knew exactly what he was doing. Welcome to the show, Stephen Edwards with Pillar to Post. Home
Thank you for
inspection
having me.
says too, right?
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good, except that I just hear the wind picking up outside. I am in Wills Point, you're in Terrell, Texas, so you're
Yeah,
basically just a couple of miles away from me. I guess it's starting to thunder.
yeah. As soon as you mentioned the wind, I heard it like howling out here too. And then you probably have the same terrible line of sight internet that I do, like for living in a rural area. Like you don't get that fiber or broadband internet.
Well, I actually do because I
Oh,
live
you lucked out.
downtown. I live in the just in the middle of Wills Point, and they installed fiber here last year. So yeah, I'm
We're
good
not
on.
even like on the radar to get it installed yet, so there's no telling when we'll get it.
Oh well. So I got an email. Stephen Edwards, Pillar to Post Home Inspection. I know what you do. And then it said, being in corporate America for 26 years, got enough, started this franchise last year. What in the world did you do? I am super curious. You've been in corporate America. What did you do there first?
I've done quite a bit. So right out of high school, I was in the military,
Thank
and
you for your
then
service.
yep. When I came back to the States, I actually had a bunch of friends that were working in a call center for Capital One doing like skip tracing and auto collections, and they were making pretty good money for, you know, you're 21 at the time, right? You don't have any kids, you don't have any responsibilities. So I was like, oh, I'll go get a job there. And so I did, and I worked my way up through different departments and either did their management and training program and got into the being a manager there. And I was doing auto finance, auto loans, and then right kind of when the 2008 when the bottom fell out of the mortgage industry, I actually switched to Citibank and I was doing mortgage loans, and we were on the homeowners assistant team, so I was managing that group. Basically, anyone that was falling behind on the mortgage, we were trying to figure out how we can modify the loan to keep you in your house, that type of stuff, with all the programs the government was rolling out. And then one day I got a call from a company called Demont, where they wanted to interview me for a management job. And it was doing property preservation inspections, and but doing the backside of it, where on behalf of the bank, you would file a hazard insurance claim for any damage to the property so that the bank could get reimbursed and then actually make the repairs to put the property back in a habitable condition so they could sell it.
Oh,
Um, so at that time, the foreclosure backlog, like some houses have been in foreclosure for a couple of years because so many were in foreclosure, and the backlog was just insane, right? So um, I did that for excuse me, just under 6 years.
that's a long time.
Com- yeah, and the company bought and sold a few times while I was there, and then the last time it got bought out, I was caught in a round of layoffs. So my next adventure there was I actually started working for a software company that builds marketing software for banks. So essentially, the way I describe it, if you're not familiar with the industry, is all that junk mail that your bank sends you, like, hey, here's a
Mhm.
credit card offer, here's an auto loan offer. We build the software that would help identify like what offers are best to send to what person.
Oh,
And
okay.
and there I was part of I managed the onboarding team initially. New clients, they just purchased software. We're going to get you set up because every system is custom to each bank. And so that was a several month to get any client off the ground. And then eventually, just as things changed and the company started growing, I ended up running IT for the last few years I was there. And that company sold. And after they sold, there was a round of layoffs, and I got caught in that round of layoffs. So uh, I I probably was maybe at the beginning of this year. It was February when I got laid off, and probably for about a month I was applying for jobs, and the market was just so saturated. Because if you remember at the beginning of this year, like a lot of the tech companies like were doing thousands of layoffs.
Yeah,
Right?
it
They
was
go,
a lot.
yeah. So there's all these people looking for a job at the same time, kind of in the same field I'm in, and I was just like, this is like just an exercise in futility, just constantly like throwing spaghetti at a wall, just trying to get an interview, get a door, and I was like, I'd always kind of wanted to own my own business. I just never knew what I wanted to do, right? Like you always kind of want to work for yourself, but you're like, well, what can I do that I could actually make a living and like pay my bills at, right?
Right.
Uh, I happened to see a pillar to post ad about buying a franchise. And then I was like, oh, I know how to do that. Like, I'm familiar with it. I read up on it, and then I scheduled a conversation with their sales team. And that was a little over like almost a 2 month process from the initial conversation to signing the deal, because you're not just vetting them, they like vet you to make sure like you have the right demeanor, you have the right aptitude, like you're gonna support the brand, you're a quality individual. um, so you do a background check, you do all kinds of other stuff that you have to pass, and tons of interview with like senior corporate people that like have to sign off and say, yeah, I think he's good, like
Wow.
yeah. So there was a lot more to buying into a franchise than I even like understood. Obviously, when I started on, verify all your finances to make sure not only do you have the money to the initial payment to buy in, but do you have enough money to sustain while you launch the business? Like because your first year, you got to get it off the ground and running.
Right. So it works a little bit then, like you have them as your back support and you have them as your brand, but basically the rest you do completely by yourself, all the advertising, and then it's like you have to use Pillar to Post. Do I
Yeah.
understand that correctly?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So basically, they already have all the systems and the processes in place, right? So they're helping you out with the technology for the apps and everything you use to do the inspection. They help you out with where to get your training, your licensing. They help you out with marketing strategies and things like that. And then they got the brand recognition also, right? So
Right.
there are ton of agents have already heard of Pillar Post, so you already have that going for you when you first meet them and introduce yourself. But
Oh,
the actual work,
like one of the biggest brands.
yeah, we are. So we are currently the largest home inspection company in North America. That's both Canada and the U.S. So um,
How do you know on the hunch how many inspectors there are, or how many
uh,
franchises?
oh, well, there's right around 500 franchises and inspectors. There's no telling, because some franchises, it's a single guy that just, one individual does all the inspections. And then some of them have 7, 8 inspectors that have been around and more established and grown their business.
That's pretty cool. It's a lot. Yeah. As a real estate agent, yes, I had heard about Pillar
Yeah.
to Post before. So has it been what is the training to become a home inspector?
So, unfortunately, I did not know this before I started, but in different states, the requirements are different. In Texas, happens to have some of the most stringent requirements to be a home inspector in Texas. So we are what they identify as a heavily regulated state. So it's us and Florida essentially are like the two that require the most extra work. Several other states do require you to be licensed, but it's not as intense. So like for Texas, there's 3 different levels of a home inspector. So you can have your apprentice license, but essentially that means you're a helper. So like you can't be doing an inspection without a licensed inspector there with you, like over your shoulder and verifying everything. And then you have the next level is the real estate inspector. So that means you can go work for a company and go do inspections on your own, but you can't actually own a company. So you have to have your professional real estate inspector license to actually own a business and to have employee inspectors. So that one requires, it was 198 hours of online training.
Hmm.
Uh, and then you have to do 40 hours of like in the field training. So essentially do ride alongs with another licensed inspector. Uh, and you actually, do the inspection beside them. Like you do your inspection, they do an inspection, and you kind of compare notes afterwards to make sure like, hey, did you catch everything you're supposed to be catching? Did you do it right? But then we're part of Pillar to Post, part of their process to make sure like they're not sending someone out there that doesn't have a clue what they're doing is. you actually have to do like 10 practice inspections where you go out and maybe you do them for like a family member's house or a friend's house. And so you do the inspection and you send it in, and their corporate trainers like grade it and give you feedback. And you have to like have 10 successful passing inspections and quality reports produced on that for them to say, okay, now you can open your doors, right? Like, so you got to do all that. And then the rest of it's just, all the normal business stuff, right? You got to get all the paperwork. You got to create your business, your LLC or whatever you decide to go with, and get all your marketing stuff prepped, get,
It's a lot.
And just buying all the equipment and everything, right? Like making sure you have all the tools and everything. And Pillar to Post is pretty good about that. So they set you up. They have well-established vendors to buy stuff from. So when you're coming out of the gate, you can literally just order the Foundations for Success starter kit. So you get all the basic tools you need. And then,
and when you say tools, I need to ask, is that the physical tools that you use when you're out on home inspection? Or are we talking kind of social media platforms and stuff like that? What kind of
tools? So it's a little all that, right? So you definitely get your physical tools that you need. Like, you have your iPad that you're doing the inspection with, taking pictures with, but then you have testers for your outlets. You have moisture meters, thermal cameras, things like that. And also one of the cool things is Pillar to Post actually prints the inspection report. We print it on site. So as soon as we're done with it, we print it, and then we give you this fancy binder that has everything in there. So you actually have to buy a printer that you carry around with you, and you pull it out of the truck every time you're done with the inspection. You print everything off and hand it to the client right there.
Well, it sounds complicated, but I bet the client is happy.
They do like it. I think even like the agents really like it too, just because it helps represent their brand as a more professional brand, right? Where you're getting this fancy binder and then everything. And then, and they help you with the marketing too. So they work with a couple of different companies that help run your social media accounts. So they make posts for you. They help, they give you ideas on how to create ads that they'll run for you. They help with emailing campaigns. Like, so they have a whole, like, when we start out the gate, here's your email marketing campaign that's going to go out to this list of agents that we've created for you in your area. And they have it all planned out so that while that's going, you're still out doing the marketing yourself, that they, because they have the process on that down too. So you're dropping by offices, like you drop off cookies, you introduce yourself, you drop off some coupons here and there. Lots of cold calls, which I can tell you, I was not looking forward to that part. Like, it was just like, because I know how much I don't like being like cold called and like solicited to. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to be that guy now. Like, yeah. So that was one of those things. Like, I just got to get over it, and you start making the calls, and then you realize that like it's not that bad, because most agents are pretty friendly, like, and they're actually glad to talk to you. And one of the parts of the marketing when you start is you offer a free inspection just for them to get to do the Pillar to Post experience, and then you're hoping they'll reuse you, for a paid inspection after that. So when you're calling them to tell you, hey, I was calling to offer you a free inspection. So they're definitely more interested in hearing your phone call when you're calling to give them something free and you're not asking for anything, right? So that made the calls go a little bit smoother, to where it wasn't as miserable as I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I would say since I opened in September, I'm probably just over 2,000 cold calls in.
Wow, that's a lot though.
Yeah, because there's like some days, you might get 20 or 30 in because you have other stuff like going on, or you're actually out doing inspections, so you can't, have time to be making calls. But there's some days you don't have an inspection scheduled, so you might do 60 or 70 calls that day.
Right. It's a roller coaster. But what have you felt was the biggest benefit of being your own from coming to corporate America? Because it's kind of scary.
So it's scary and it's stressful, but it's not the same kind of stress as corporate America. At least I found, like, because, I think we've all had managers or maybe some coworkers that can just make life in the office quite miserable.
Yep.
Right. And so some days you're just logging on, or you're going in the office and you're just like, man, I just hope I don't have to deal with this today. Or like, maybe it'll be an easy day. Well, it's not, and then, or something goes wrong, you have like 10 meetings about how to fix it. So just fixing it, moving on. Right. So now if I'm irritated about my coworker, I'm irritated about myself. So like, it's like, or if something goes wrong or gets messed up, I just go look in the mirror and be like, all right, dummy, let's fix it. It's
Lesson
not a,
learned. Don't do it
yeah,
again.
it's not a big debate. It's like, okay, that didn't work. Try something else.
Right. And so do you still feel that scariness now you've done this for what, 6, 7, 8 months, something like that? My math ain't
So, my
are you
I'm
more
in the middle
comfortable now?
of I'm at the beginning of my fifth month of actually like opening for business. And so the one part is like you offer all those free inspections, right? So I was pretty busy, like, out of the gate, September, uh, October, November, December slowed down, just the seasonal thing.
Right.
But a lot of that, doing those free inspections, you're actually end up paying for that inspection, right? Because you're paying for your time, your gas to go do it. Uh, and then, of course, all the cool things that Pillar to Post offers, there's some fees that we pay for each inspection just to make sure, just for some of the technology and stuff we use. So it actually costs you those inspections. So I was basically making enough just to pay for the business to operate, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I've at this point, like I wasn't losing money, but I wasn't really making a lot of
Thank
money.
you.
Um, and so this month is where like the free inspection coupons are over. So we do have $100 off coupon out there. So I still make some money doing the inspections. So this is where I'll finally get the chance to make money. So that's the stressful part right now is, okay, now I got to actually start making like money. I need to get myself a check. I haven't had a paycheck since February, right? So I've been living off
Right.
the savings and everything. So I'm like, I'm ready to quit watching the savings account go down and maybe let's put some more money back in it.
Yeah. You say that usually when you start a brand new business, regardless what it is, the first 3 to 5 years is not going to be profitable. That's just
Yeah.
something you just have to know. Like you have to have that backup or another income or whatever for a couple of years because it's not the easiest thing. It's not just to open the doors and believe that people are walking in the doors.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that attracted me to Pillar to Post. Though, like my business will be profitable by the end of this year. Like probably here in the next couple months. Like
Good.
uh, our rookie of the year, just like last year, his first year, his gross was $225,000.
Maybe I should change.
But
the-
so there's definitely a chance to be profitable doing home inspections with Pillar to Post your first year. But again, it's like you mentioned earlier, that's all on me, right? They gave me the
Right.
tools, but I got to go drive the business. I got to do a quality job to where someone wants to, refer me again. Because
Yeah.
my whole business is, I'm not marketing to homeowners, I'm marketing to agents like yourself, because most people buy one or two houses a year. And I would waste a lot of dollars on marketing to like the individual people buying a house. So you try to
And,
meet agents and
and
hope
not
they
only
refer you.
that, because my home buyers, I often represent the buyers so far, and my buyers kind of anticipate me to have the network and that network to be good. If they need something as a home inspector, appraiser, whatever it may be, um, even just a contractor for whatever reason, they expect me to have that kind of network. So for me as a real estate agent, I have to network and find those contacts around the area that I work. And I assume it's the same thing for you. Have you
Yep.
been networking a lot? How have you been finding your agents?
So
Except
like I said,
podcast.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I didn't actually know you're an agent when you did this. So I was like, when you said you're an agent, I was like, oh, awesome. Meet another one. Uh,
Exactly. Kaboom.
like I said, the cold calls has been a big part of it. A lot of it's office visits. Like you walk in the office, whoever's working the front desk, you talk to them, and then hopefully there's other people like around the front desk. You get to introduce, talk to them and stuff. And usually you're dropping off snacks or like cookies and stuff like that. In a branded box that like has your business card and everything off of it. So like even when they take and put it in the back office, your brand is sitting right there. So people are like, oh, who's this guy? Right. And they get to where they see your information out a lot. One of the ones I actually like to do the most is actually we visit open houses. So on like Saturday or Sunday, if I'm not actively doing a home inspection, I load up like little goodie boxes full of like water, chips, like trail mix and things like that. And I just walk into an open house and say, hey, I brought you some snacks while you're stuck here hanging out for a couple hours. And I just have a conversation and tell them
That's a
about
smart
Pillar to
idea.
Post.
That's a
And
smart idea.
And that's pillar to post. Like that's like what you paid for when I bought in. Yeah, I would never thought to do that on my own, at least not initially, right? And they were like, "Here's how you're going to grow your business."
So
And
Pillar to Post comes and gives you a lot of ideas and tips and kind of a structure of this is how you will be successful. Follow it and you'll be good.
yep, and they tell you just okay, rinse and repeat. Once you've done all that, do it all over again. Just keep doing it all over again.
All over again, nonstop.
Yeah, and then I would say like the other franchise owners have been great. So I've been I've had questions, and I'll just call some of the other owners in the area because I think there's about 10 or 15 total in the DFW area,
Mhm.
or some of us are a little further out of the DFW like main center, but anytime I call them, they're all like super helpful. Like, hey, what do you do in this situation? Or like, how are you handling this? Or what are you doing that's working? Right. And so they're all willing to help and pass tips on this stuff on like, hey, try this, try this. And some of it works for me, some of it doesn't, but they're all helpful.
So, how do you feel like social media has helped? I know you told us that they are Pillar to Post is helping you kind of market and post and stuff like that. But how have that helped you? Have you been
So
able? What
they,
platforms are you on? I know you're on Facebook.
yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn currently.
Okay.
Not Instagram, Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
But
gonna post all that in the show notes. So if you
okay.
want to know his links, just go to the podcast show notes.
And so they do a daily post on your podcast on your platforms for you. It's usually like
Mhm.
an informational article, something to do with homes or whether it be insurance or cool design ideas or something like that. But it's still up to me to do a lot of the posting. So like um, sometimes I'll post the pictures of like, hey, here's some interesting finds on a house today, like some really safety concerns. Like, hey, here's things that why you want to pay for a home inspection. Like a lot of times, on a new build, brand new build, you think everything's supposed to be perfect, and then you find all kinds of things, right? So you post pictures like, hey, this is why you want to get your new home inspected. Here's what just happened today, right? So
So
you're doing
I want
those.
to ask, what is the worst you have found out on an inspection so far?
I would say the biggest one. Well, this is probably I don't know. So I guess it's how you want to classify worse. But I would say the biggest safety hazard I found was I did a house in Canton probably about a month and a half ago, and I go to pull the panel cover off to inspect the electrical,
Mhm.
and all the wires, all the breakers are cut, and they took the wire, bypassed the panel completely, and ran it into the attic. So then I was like, okay, what do we got here, right? So I go scramble up into the attic, and it's one of those ones that doesn't have a lot of room, so you're like crawling all the way across to try to figure out where this is at. And they had tied all the wiring to the house directly into the meter, like, and it was
What?
just yeah, directly into the meter, and it was just laid loose in top of the attic with wire nuts connecting it, and some of them the wire nuts had fallen off. So that's like a huge fire safety hazard. That would
How
say
about if
that.
you're watching over them that nothing has happened?
Well, and that's what I told the buyer. Like I was like, you might want to make sure you tell the sellers too, because I don't know if they're aware they've been living in a house that's like this, because it could have been done before they bought it, or maybe they had a buddy or an uncle or someone that came over and did that for them. I don't know, but I was like, you might want to just give them a heads up because you need a whole new panel installed.
Do you know if that deal went through or did they drop out?
I don't know because the agent called me like a couple days later asking like what the proper fix was, and I walked him through it, and they asked like how much that price is going to be, and I'm like, you're probably going to be somewhere in the $3,000 to $5,000 range to do it all correctly,
Yeah.
and so the buyer was still interested in buying the house when I talked to him at the inspection board. He was like, "But that can be fixed," and I was like, "Yeah, it actually can be fixed. You just have to decide if you want to, spend the money or not."
Spend
Every
money.
because at the end of the day, everything we find can be fixed. You just have to decide if that's something you're willing to fix or something you're okay with, right? Nothing. There's no reason that anything we find should kill the deal, unless it's just above the buyer's tolerance level for things they're willing to deal with.
True. True. And as an agent, you just there are things you can't see. Just it doesn't matter if you go through the house 5 times. There are still things you don't see until you get an inspection done.
Yeah,
That's
I'm a terrible house guest now too, actually, because it's like you just try not to comment on it, right? But like you walk up to any house and instantly you just start like seeing things and picking up on things, and it's just like, all
your
right,
friends like, you're not welcome for Christmas and
yeah, like
parties anymore.
I just have to like bite my tongue and like don't say anything. No, just like it's their house, they're happy with it, just let it go.
Unless it's kind of like this
Yeah,
is
if it
gonna
was a
go
major,
on.
yeah, if it was a major safety hazard, I'd be like, hey, you might want to look into getting that one resolved. I would say something, but like for all the minor stuff, I'm just like, just mind your own business, bud.
Mhm.
Yeah,
What do you think is the most fun being a home inspector?
I like that every day's different. Like it's literally like a wild ride every day, right? Like so, I'm driving to a different place every day, um, and then you just find some of the houses are just cool too, man. Like you go to like some of these like newer houses and like you go walk into like $1.5 million, $2 million house with like all these new technologies and stuff in them, and you're like, oh, I haven't actually got to play with this one yet. So you're over there messing with all this stuff, and you're just like, this is pretty cool.
I bet. So what area, like you're in Terrell, Texas, and I guess we have listener basically all over, but what area are you covering here? East
So
Texas,
I pretty
Dallas,
much go anywhere. So by the
within the state
franchise,
of Texas.
what you, yeah. So I mean, I've gone as far as Tyler, and I've gone to Fort Worth, gone to Bonham, gone to Waxahachie. Like, so if I can get there within under 2 hours, I'll make it work. Ideally, though, like is my territory includes Van Zant, Hunt, Rockwall, Dallas, and Kaufman County. So those are like the only areas I can like
Area.
legally, yeah, those are the only areas I can legally market in based on the franchise rules.
Okay.
But like if someone from that area, but I run into like at an open house and they're like, well, I got a buyer and they're buying a house, in Collin County, I can go do that if someone asks me to come do a job there. I just can't be running around Collin County meeting realtors.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, so pillar to post restrict that as well a little bit just to be fair to
Yeah.
other agents and
Yeah.
other companies as well, which is
Yep.
completely understandable.
It works. There's so many, even when they say the market's slow, there's so many houses still selling like in Texas and everything that like you can't, there's no way you can do every single, agent in your territory anyway. So if someone calls you and you go, like, you're not going to bump into each other. You're not going to take business from the next guy. Like there's plenty of business for all of us to be profitable, even for, the home inspectors that aren't pillar to post, right? Like, I mean, there's still business for them because there's not enough of us to do them all either.
Right. It's still, but how do you feel that the market fluctuates compared then to from September when you started until now, January?
Well, it was actually moving pretty good, even with like interest rates high and stuff. I mean, I was doing really good. So when you launch, you actually have a startup. You have a startup coach from the corporate office,
Hmm.
and they have like a whole list of franchises that are under them because you stay in the startup phase until you hit certain milestones. And out of like some of the people had a franchise and they'd already been doing it several months before me, and some of them even a year with me. And I finished number one in October and November, and then finished number two in December. So like, I was finding plenty of work to do.
You've been
Uh,
busy.
yeah, I'm trying to. And then I think all the talk about the interest rates coming down too, right? Like I one thing I noticed the last 2 weekends doing my open house visits, like there was a ton of traffic at all the open houses. Like everyone had buyers actually walking in and coming in and looking. Whereas a month or two before that, I've talked to agents and they sat there both Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 2 or 3 hours and nobody came by. But
And
the interest rate,
I was showing a house up in Collin County just when I started last year, and just in that neighborhood, within a couple of blocks, it was 5 houses for sale, and all of them are almost look the same, and all of us had open house at the same time, basically just to draw people to come. If you come on one, you can go on the other ones in the same neighborhood. It was dead silence, nothing. It's like, oh,
yeah. But like I said, these last couple of weekends, I've seen a ton of traffic, and even talking to some of the other franchise owners, even in other states, they said they're seeing the same thing on the weekends at open houses. A lot of traffic. So the interest rates coming down. It's got people coming off the bench. So hopefully
and Christmas
this
is
year,
over.
Yeah, and most people aren't trying to move in the middle of the holidays, right? So you expect it to be a little slower in December.
Right,
But
right. Now they're probably like, okay, Christmas, New Year is done. Let's look forward. It's going to be a little bit cold in January, February. And then, but that's also if you don't have mortgage and you get your finances together. And if you have that, well, keep on moving,
yeah,
It's,
but I've definitely seen that a lot more activity going on, and even talking to other agents and brokers. What I keep hearing commonly from them is they think when the interest rate hits anywhere in the fives and it gets down to like 5.5, they're
Mhm.
thinking it's going to take off just like 2021 and be a really hot market this year. So if they
yeah.
make those interest rate cuts like they're predicting before this year, it could get pretty busy again.
Yep. I think so. I think so. December was a little bit slow, and now it's just gonna say zit. And as soon as the cold weather is gone, I think it's gonna be, at least for me as an agent, I'm gonna go out and show and have a lot more to do. Um,
Yeah, and then also
after
the closer you get to the end of the school year, right? People like to move in between the school year, not that we don't have to disrupt the kids and all that other stuff. So,
right, and in the spring break, they want to go and look at houses.
yeah.
So that's kind of a good thing. So where do you go from here? Where do you see yourself in 1 year and in 5 years?
Well, ideally, in 5 years, I would actually have several employee inspectors that are doing the inspections, and I can focus more on like the marketing, the business itself, and actually like growing it, and not necessarily be the guy in the 130-degree attic every day, right? Uh, that was where I would like to be in 5 years. This year, I would like to just make it profitable. And Pillar Post has awards and a big brand conference every year. And
Mhm.
one of the big awards is Rookie of the Year. So if you do the highest gross sales for the year, so that's my goal for this year. Is I want to chase the Rookie of the Year.
Well,
So
we're
you
gonna
have,
follow up next year.
yeah.
When is
So
that award ceremony?
it's usually like middle to end of January every year. So like this year, it's like the 25th, 26th, and 27th, and it's down in Florida. I'm not going this
Uh,
year since I just launched, and I want
right.
to.
So
I
we
don't
got
want
to
to
look
take these
for
off, but
January 2025. We'll be back if we're
uh,
gonna follow up.
all right. Well, hopefully, I have a good answer for you, and it's not like, well, I was close.
No, now we have you on the spot there. That the Harley Quinn podcast is gonna come back and ask. So
But yeah, that's the
yeah.
goal. That's like I'm just a very competitive, driven person. Tell me, oh, you probably won't be able to do this year. Most people don't. Okay, well, let's see.
Well, challenge is on, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, if I'm trying to do that, and even if I don't hit it, I'm still going to have one hell of a year.
You'll see and experience a lot, I believe. See a
Yeah,
lot of houses, a lot of craziness.
yeah. There's a lot of driving. I think I underestimated how much time I sit in my truck. Like, because you get up and it might be an hour and a half to one job. You do that, and then to get back to the other side of the metroplex for the next job in the afternoon is like another hour and a half. Then you got an hour drive home. So like, some days it's 4 and 5 hours of driving.
Oh yeah. And how do you um like schedule time wise? Because one house that is smaller may take, I don't know, I'm just guessing, an hour to inspect. What do I know? And another one takes more time. How will you know how
So
much time to schedule for something?
Well, every inspector is a little different. Some are quicker, some are slower. But when you call and book, I always block off. You get 3 hours, right? Like that's the standard allotment for most houses, um, and that pretty much covers me anything up to like 3,000 square foot, 3,500 square foot in that range. I can usually get that done in 3 to 3.5 hours. But you start getting bigger than that, then I'm going to allot more time for it. You start getting into like 4,000, 5,000 square foot houses. Okay, we're gonna add another hour on that window because that one's going to take me a little bit longer. It's a pretty large house, and then it also depends on if the house is occupied or if it's vacant. So if the house is vacant, the people have already moved out, all their furniture's gone. That saves you a lot of time on the inspection because you could just kind of run around and check everything very quickly. You don't have things in your way. You're not navigating people's storage and furniture, and so that saves you time. And then, it's just kind of a judgment call too. Like, some people, they like to just go take their time. They like to, have a nice steady pace, and some people, it's like off to the races, right? As soon as you get out of the truck, you're just moving and trying to get it done. Uh, and the big thing is too is keeping a routine, right? Like, so I kind of have an order that I do everything in, and that's how I make sure I don't miss stuff, right? Like you do it this way every single time, so that like, okay, I check this system, I check this, and that way like. But sometimes if you're there and there's people in the house with you, they start asking you questions and they want to know, that can throw you off, and you're like, did I check that? So then you have to go back and do it twice just to make sure you did look at everything properly.
I was just going to ask you about that when you said people with you in the house. Do you want the buyer to be there? Because buyer is your client, essentially. The seller should absolutely not be there, in my opinion. I would throw them out. But
Well, I've had the seller there a few times, and that definitely makes it a little more awkward. But I actually don't mind if the buyer's there or not. Like, it's really up to their preference, and I tell them, if you wanted to show up at the end at least, that way I could walk you through everything in person. Is good. Because you can read the report, but me walking over and pointing it out to you and actually showing you what the report's talking to, you'll get all our inspections come with a 360 video of the property too, so you'll get the video of it too. But it's still different seeing it in person and having that discussion. So I do like them to show up at the end at least. But if they want to be there the whole time, I'm totally okay with it, and I'll answer as many questions as they have. I do have a lot that don't show up at all. Like they just want me to email the report and give them a call afterwards, and we walk through it. And I'm happy to do that as well. And then I've had quite a few out-of-state buyers, so obviously they can't be there. So you're just emailing the report and giving them a call and walking them through it. And that's one of those things too. Like, dang, they've never even seen the house, so you're the only one seeing the house for them and doing an inspection. So you really want to make sure like you don't miss anything, because they're putting a lot of trust in you to say that this is good. They never even like looked at it besides pictures online, right?
I am not sure that I would buy a house out of state without even seeing it. Even though, yeah, if an agent was kind of like having him on a video call and I could see it, but no,
No,
I
I've
would
definitely seen agents do the whole like FaceTime and walk around the house, but that's
buy.
still, but then you get that little box of a view, right? You don't get to like take the
Right. Even if
whole
I
thing
sit
in.
on my big computer screen and look at it, it's still not the same. Uh, I'm it's just a personal thing. I'm not sure I would do it. I absolutely know.
Yeah,
It's
that's a lot
like
of money to spend blindly, right? But
right, right.
people do it. They got more guts than I do, apparently, because I don't think I could.
No, I couldn't. I wanna see it. It's worth
Yeah.
that trip. And not only just the house, but I wanna see the neighborhood, everything that's around the house, the block, whatever it may be. I wanna get the feeling because it's a lot of things you can squeeze out in a picture that, yeah, that next door neighbor is a junkyard. And then you show
Yeah,
up and you're like, "Oh, no,
definitely.
thank
They definitely play the angles on a lot of those pictures, because like I'll get an inspection and I always go look them up online like the night before, like to
right."
look at the listing, just kind of have an idea what I'm walking into. I'm like, oh, this one looks like it might be pretty decent. And then you get there and you're just like, oh, this looks nothing like the pictures. Like you're
Often it
like,
is that way.
yeah,
And it's been even I go on and showing people houses, and I of course, I know the listing up and down. I've seen all the pictures several times by then, and I'm like, "This is not what I expected." Hmm,
yeah.
so
Even when we, even when we bought our place out here in Terrell, so we weren't like specifically looking in Terrell. We were kind of anywhere we could find a good amount of land for the livestock and everything in any direction, within an hour of Dallas, basically, just because of our jobs at the time. And we would look at these houses and think, oh, this one looks like it'd be a great fit. And we would show up and it would just be like all the fencing was completely rusted out, so you couldn't put livestock out there without fixing the fencing. Or you'd walk inside and like, I remember one house that just had this horrendous odor of like cat urine, like
oh,
that we're just like, no, we're out, we're leaving. I opened a closet door and it was like covered in black mold on one of them when we were, and that was just our own personal experience, like trying to buy a house. And we're just like, wow, these pictures, man.
yeah. and some houses doesn't even have pictures from the inside, and that's
Mhm.
always like, why? There is
Like,
a
yeah,
reason why. But just knowing, I could not buy something without being there physically and look at it, because I want to see the neighborhood. I want to see the town, especially if I haven't lived there before. No way. Mm-mm, not happening. That's brave. If you do that, you're brave. That's all I can say.
yeah. I mean, and some people don't have a choice, right? A lot of them, it's they're having to relocate for work, right? So you
Mhm.
kind of got to get it done. I did do one for an out of state buyer where she actually flew in, stayed here for 5 days. So she ran around like a crazy person with her agent, like in and out of houses and trying to make a decision. She finally found one out in Maybank, actually. But
Yeah, we did
she,
that when we moved from Sweden to here. I'll tell you, that was a limited time, and the agent back then, this is 2008, she knew we were coming in, and we had literally 5 to 6 houses to look at every day for 4 or 5 days, and, she was amazing. She was amazing. She thought it was super cool that somebody from on the other side of the world was
right.
gonna come over.
And
It was
then plus you get, you're going to look at all those houses too. Like you're knocking out, that's like a committed buyer, right? Because they like,
yeah,
hey, we need to look at these houses. We got to make a plan. And then the other cool thing is probably for y'all too is like when you do a bunch of showings, maybe you're doing it with that one client, but then you get another client that comes along and they tell you kind of what to look at. You're like, oh, I just saw this one the other day. It might be exactly what you're looking for,
right.
right? And you personally been there, know that it's what they're looking
It's
for.
happened a lot that I've been to a house and I can tell the next client that, yeah, just expect this and this and this and this. And, but, you know, I can tell you this might be or there might not be a house, but I have no problem showing it to you. Just expect this. So, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
Do
had
you?
one agent tell me that because when they do showings now, everyone has like the Ring cameras and Alexa and all these things that like your all your comments when you're walking through the house that get recorded and everything. And she's like, I just tell my client before we go in, if I say
Uh,
if this needs a little TLC, I'm just letting you know that that's going to require some work done on it, and we'll just leave it at that. And she's like, so she just that's all they say is like, oh, we're gonna need a little TLC here, and we need TLC here because she just doesn't want to be recorded and like upset anybody.
right. And I say that to my clients too. Like, just because we don't physically see a camera doesn't mean there is no camera here.
Yeah,
So just while you're looking, shut your mouth. Literally, just think about what you're
and
saying.
that's the
And
same thing doing the home inspection. You walk in, you clearly know you're probably on camera the whole time you're doing the inspection, right? So like, make sure you're doing the right thing all the time.
yeah, and often we drive away. People are like, "Oh, we're standing outside." No, 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 no. Let's meet a block away and talk. That's much better. Much better. What do you think is most fun being an inspector?
I think it's actually I like so I'm not like normally like a super social person, right? Like I'm the guy that if you go where I can sit in the corner by myself and be quiet, like and totally have a good time. But I actually really enjoy all the interaction. And then I also like you get some of these buyers, they just, they're not like particularly like handy or have ever really or owned a house or they don't understand how the systems work. So you get to educate them, right? You get to show them like, and then you can see sometimes it'll be something small that you point out in the inspection report that's really not a big deal, but you just wanted to make sure you told them about it so it's not a surprise. And sometimes you can see like they get a little panic or a little anxious about it, and then you just tell them like this is actually a really minor deal. Let me tell you what the fix is. This costs you probably about $15 at Home Depot. And you could just install this with a couple of screws. Like it's not that big a deal. So I like that, like being able to like make them understand and like feel comfortable about what they're buying.
Cool. Well, anything else you want to add, Stephen, before we close for today?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. I would say, some of the things that we do different at Pillar Post and other inspections. I mentioned we do the 360 video
Mhm.
on every inspection. And then we also partner with a company called BossCat. So anything we find in the inspection report that if we mark as a deficiency, when you get your digital copy of the report, you'll be able to click on a link and you can request the estimate to fix all that stuff. And you'll get that within 24 hours. It's all based on local pricing too. And then so when you get that estimate back, like within 24 hours of the inspection, now you can fully understand like what commitment you're going to have to make if you want to move in and repair this stuff. And then that gives you also a great negotiation tool because you're not going to get a contractor out there to give you an estimate that fast, right?
No, I did not even know that. That's
So that's
cool.
a really cool thing. And then we also, depending what package you go with, you get a digital floor plan with all the measurements of the house as well. And then one of the other really cool things we offer is we have a home manual. So when we do your inspection, we'll scan the manufacturer's tag on all your major appliances like your heater, your water heater, your AC, your ovens, microwaves, dishwashers, things like that. And also within 24 hours, you'll get a report and it tells you when everything's manufactured. It tells you if there's any active safety recalls on it. If it's a safety recall on it, we give you the contact information. So once you move in, you can call the manufacturer and have them either come repair it, or sometimes they just send you a part to fix it. And then we also tell you if there's any warranty left from the manufacturer on that product as well. And then the other cool thing is, you move into a house, so all the appliances were bought by the seller. Not everyone saves those owner manuals, so you may or may not know how to work some things. Well, when you do that home manual piece, as soon as that appliance is cataloged in the system, you'll have access to an online version of those owner's manuals. So you'll always, if you have to look something up, you'll have that manual available to you.
That's cool. I did not know that. See what I learned today.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like it. I like it. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for joining me here at the Small Business and Entrepreneur Podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great spring, and I will be back in a year checking up on you and see how
All
you're
right. Well, I
doing.
hope I have good news for you.
Yes. Thank you all for today. And don't forget to check out harlequinpodcast.com. And I will put all the links and a couple of more pictures that Stephen has submitted to me. So they will be on social media as well. So check it out. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.